So I've got these timber columns in now with my joists and beams, and I've started to work out how I'm going to do the shop fronts. But I'm not going to go all the way and do all of those shop fronts until I've got a better idea of the other things that might interact with the facade, particularly car parking. So the first thing you should think about is the aisle width, which I won't go back to show you, but hopefully you all know is 3 metres for one way. So measuring between these two piers, that would give me more than I need for one way. But two-way is 5.5, so you probably won't be able to have a two-way access, but you could easily have some access ways side by side. So if you're going to have a drive that goes straight in, then again, a two-way or two lots of one-way roads, because you probably need to keep columns in between as well. So 2 3-metre wide driveways should be okay. But I'm going to do something a little bit more involved, which I think will work really well with this footprint anyway, and that's to have an entry on the Mary Street side, where it's probably a lot like many hotels, where you can drive in this way and then drive undercover, and have a portraiture there with a nice entry, maybe that's set back, and again then the exit could be over here. It's very difficult to have a straight access if you're planning on this sort of access way, because coming out at the corners is a problem. So if you have a driveway coming out at the corner there or the corner here, the council traffic engineers will often have an issue with that if you have driveways too close to the corner. So yeah, but it's on the corner here, so it's got a building next door. So it's the corner of the building, but it's not the corner of the street.
No, there's a street behind. There's like a lane, but it's been built in now.
Yeah.
To get rid of that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Does that mean you have to move the entry to the car park?
No. And it's only a laneway anyway. Look, you can do it. So you just have to discuss with the council traffic engineers what they want you to do. You probably could do it. Yeah. I think with this project they're going to let you be fairly creative. Yeah. So. But just in future, if you're working in an office and you look at doing something like that, that's something you should be aware of. That coming in from here, I mean, just think about, if I show you the layout, just think about what people would need to do. So they're coming in here, so you're going to be getting in the way of all the people turning the corner there, and also there'll be a blind spot most likely, so it's likely to create accidents if you have the entry here. But they probably just make you put in some safety measures for that. And the same over here, that would be a real problem. Imagine if there's people turning this way and then people also turning a bit further down. That is definitely going to be a safety issue, but you can usually work out an alternative or just some extra measures that you can take.
If you were to have it like say near Mary Street at the bottom,
Yeah.
and on the right-hand side, Revit like
Yeah. Yep.
Right
Yep.
there where the driveway actually is.
Yeah.
If that driveway, if you've got rid of that building and made that driveway for the actual, like the driveway for the actual hotel,
Yeah.
and that was really just like a drop-off point and so on,
Yeah.
you could still have that parking lot on the corner, couldn't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because then it wouldn't be a road access.
That's right. And because
Driveway.
that's it. And also, if you're putting that lane back, I wouldn't know why you would do that actually. If you're going to demolish that building, I think maybe a pedestrian way is a better option, because then it gives extra amenity to the site. Putting a road back is just donating to council really, and maybe if you like giving the residents extra road to drive on, it might be a good thing, but it's not really adding.
The driveway to the hotel, not an actual road.
Oh no, but I'm talking about the building next door. So if you're going to demolish that and have that bit open, maybe it would be better as a, what do you call it, I should know terms for this, a boulevard or something, like an open mall or some sort of pedestrian space, rather than trying to put a road back, because roads really are council's responsibility, and they probably wouldn't even want you to put the lane back there. I'd be fairly certain. Yeah, I'd say definitely actually they wouldn't, because Sydney City Council is really pro reducing cars. So So again, that's maybe going to make it simpler, but even if you did put the roadway back there or the laneway, because it's not a busy road, I don't think it'd be a problem retaining the access there. Yeah, if you're going to put a new building there, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. So you just want to set those things out, and before you try to use all the 3D tools, and by that I mean even model lines. So on the architecture tab, you've got model lines there and model text as well. And because you see those tools all the time on the architecture tab, it's tempting to use those for your basic text and lines. But when you see that term model, that basically means 3D. So model lines are 3D lines, and you'll see them in all of your views, including 3D views, perspectives, and axos, and most of your other views. So probably avoid using those. And the same with model text. You really only need to use model text for things like signage. So if you don't know, the tools on the annotate tab are much better for those things. So for lines, detail lines are better than model lines most of the time, and then text is better than model text. And the reason is that they're 2D. So in other words, and that's a good thing, because you normally only want them in a particular view. So that'll be really useful then to help me set out the layout. And a lot of the planning you can do this way. So just with detail lines now, I'm going to draw a circle using the radius that I can see here for the turning circle. So 6.3 metres, and I'm just going to start anywhere. I'll probably need to move it around, so I'll just start on this point here, and then 6,300. So now I can move this, and you can see there that it's still possible to get that turning circle into there just. It's pretty tight, but so then that's the outer edge. And then we've got the width there, which is going to be pretty tight actually, but let's see. We should be able to do it. So, yes, yeah, absolutely. So only if you're going to do an axis where you need to turn, and then you will, yeah. So just a matter of deciding on your layout. If you're doing a straight axis, then you don't need to do a turning circle.
Is that if we're doing it for the parking lot and you don't need the max straight?
No, this isn't for a parking lot, it's for the Port Couture, so it's the access. So where because most people staying in a hotel are not going to be driving in. They're going to be delivered by taxi or hire car. And then there's got to be a nice entry for those people as well once they get out of the cars. And you want all of those things separate usually from the car park altogether. You might have the access to the car park nearby, but normally you have this as a separate thing. Otherwise, they just need to drop them off on the street, which is what they do in cheaper hotels. But again, it's a nice thing if you can have this.
But you make it inside the
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's typical. Yeah.
Yeah, I want this one actually.
Yeah, it's a much nicer way than I think having it on the street. You could have it with the access up here if you work out maybe how you could have a lobby or something alongside it. Lots of options.
And I just have this. I don't have lobby.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, so detailed lines, and that's mainly what I wanted to show you, that you have tools like that when you need to sketch out, things that are really for working out more than things that need to be modelled. But you'll find they're really useful later when you're doing your presentation drawings, because often with Revit you'll get lines that you don't want. So maybe I wouldn't want the door handles even showing here. But then it also sometimes won't give you lines that you do want. And so you can always just use detail lines to draw in the lines you need. Instead of making everything in 3D, often you can just go back to basic first principles and draw in lines. So maybe here I can see it didn't give me a line for the threshold on the other side.
It's like the drawing in CAD.
It is, that's right.
You're supposed to do 2D and start doing 3D.
Exactly. So I drew a circle. So using detail lines, you've got all the different shapes over to the right. No, you've got to just press escape a couple of times, and then there we are. Yep. And then if you click on detail lines, there we are. You've got the shapes over on the right. So I just drew a circle. So then I'm going to draw another circle, but I want this circle centered on the first one. So again, it's just a good chance to go over a lot of these basic drawing things. If I'm drawing another circle now, and I want to snap to the centre of the circle I've already drawn, do you know the shortcut? That actually does work. So here, that's what I've done. So if you move your cursor onto the circle, then it should find the centre when you move towards the centre. So that works. But to force it, it's good to know the shortcut, which is SC. So SC, and then even if I just click on the edge of the circle, it's going to snap to the centre that you can see there, right in the middle. Okay, so then I'm going to give my my second radius. So my outside was 6.8, 6.3. Sorry. So the inside will need to be 3.3, and God, that's tight, but I can just make it. Yeah, 6.3, 6.3. You could. Yeah, you could definitely use offset. Yeah, yeah. 6300 is the first one. Yeah. So there, it's very tight, but I think it just makes it, because if I move the circles around, up a little bit, God, it's very tight, but I think you get away with that. It's only a couple of mil, and I'd say that complies. That's for the, there we go, just. So 6.3 on the outside, and then if you're going to have a 3 metre wide driveway, then it'll be 3 metres less, so 3.3 on the inside. And, well, now actually I'm going up into the line where my wall will probably be, so maybe I do need to come down. It's very tight, but I think you can just make it. Maybe I'm going...
So you take out one colour?
Well, you shouldn't. You should be trying to avoid that, because...
so you might need to stretch it out so that it goes through not the next one but the one after.
Yeah, I think either that, or what you could probably say is it's very minor here, the incursion into the turning circle, and the way that they turn as well means that the car is probably going to be more to this side anyway at that point. So you could probably assume that you can engage a traffic engineer, if the project ends up being built, to work out a what they call a performance criteria, or basically a way of getting the right, the performance that's required without complying with the letter of the law.
And the last column.
Sorry?
And how are we going to
So
make the car go out from the last?
same thing. So you've got, so it's only, let's measure it. It's 2,000,
Yeah, but the last one.
and this is for the large car as well. So I think with the work the traffic engineer could do, they could also probably come up with some signage for large vehicles, because most of the vehicles would be small. So this is the turning circle for a small to medium car, which you can see is 5.8 metres.
I'm already home.
Right?
It's a minimum.
Yeah, that's right. If you're going straight through, you don't need this at all. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. So you just need to, no. So you just need to know that 3 metre wide driveway is all you need. And that's it. No. That's right. Yeah. So yeah, if you're not doing it, then you don't have to work out your turning circles.
Maybe better.
Yep. Yep. That's fine. Yep. Yep. Sure. So yeah, I know it's fun when you're listening to it afterwards. But so then with the circles, same circles at the end, I've just copied them. So hopefully that's something you can all do. And again, you can see it's got a similar issue, but that's with the worst case. So with a 5.8 turning circle, it'll easily comply. So I'm going to say that looks okay to me. I've done enough working out, and I can then go and start modelling in 3D what I need. So there are just a couple of considerations there. Hopefully most of this you can do with the tools you've been using already. But again, apart from those drafting tools, those ones on the Annotate tab, but you can see they're all greyed out, because they're all 2D drawing tools for drawing over plans and sections and elevations mostly. So I'm in a 3D view. I can't use any of those tools, but that's okay. I want to just work on the Toposurface. So sure you remember that you make them using the Toposurface tool on the Massing and Site tab. But if you've made one already, you can, of course, select it, and then you get the option to edit surface to then add in more points. So if you've done it like me, you probably just have 4 points on the 4 corners of this rectangular shape. And maybe just, if you want to check if you've, again, done this before, it's not a bad idea to check the heights of any of those points just by selecting them. You'll then see the elevation comes up on the options bar there. Okay, so clicking on each one, you can see they're all minus 900. And I've done that so that any ground surface you see, particularly in a section view, here we are. Okay, so that's the ground surface there. And so you can see there it's 100 mil below the floor level, which is a good thing to try for. You don't need to get that much. Sometimes you can have less than 100 mil, but it's always good to have some separation and have the ground a little bit lower than your main floor in Revit, just because sometimes when you do even rendering, the floor surface, if it's in line with the ground, is going to show both materials, which doesn't look very good. So just watch out for that. If you're doing a pad, which we've done before as well, that's not such an issue. But again, it's just a good habit to try and have your ground floor line, also the ground line, not the floor line, below your main floor level. Because for drainage and other things as well, that's probably something you've got to think about. So again, that's the Toposurface in section before I modify it, and I might go back to Site Satellite, which you can see there shows my satellite image. It's probably as good as any. And then I'm going to go and have a look at the photos that I've saved for you. So on the P drive, different P drive on this one. So if you didn't see them last week, I've added in a lot of photos, and we should pick up the levels from here, so you can see they're sloping up, and that is the same corner down on the corner of Mary Street and there we go, Light Lane. That's easy. And so you can work this out accurately. Probably all know how. Counting, you know what. I might just do that quickly now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's say 33. So that's from the bottom of this beam. And so then, looking in the plan view there, it should be at this corner. And if I go and have a look at the elevation, so this is going to be my west elevation. Then that can't be right. No, so that is the beam. Yep, that's the beam up there. And so this is coming down much lower because that's for the height where it is on Mary Street. And, on Reservoir Street, that is the level. So measuring here, I can measure down and see it's, 3.9 metres. Might just bring up a calculator. And what did I say, 33 bricks? 32? Doesn't really matter, we probably fine tune it. So I'll say 32 bricks times 85. Oops, there's the backspace. Backspace button. Oh, yeah, there it is. 85. 2720. Okay, so it's a lot lower, or essentially the ground here is a lot higher than it is on the other side of the building. And I might, before I go too far, just check Street View because I think the beams maybe change a little bit over that side as well, so that could try it out a bit. corner. There we are. So then, oh no, it does come down that much. Okay, so you can see here, these are the concrete beams, which should all be exactly the same height as those in Reservoir Street. Then coming along, you can see that it does come up here, and oh yeah, no, so that is so, yeah, so that is going to make a difference. Yeah, that's right. Oh no, so here actually, sorry, it comes down again, just for the last one. That's interesting. Oh no, the last two, I think it's just hidden there. So,
We can pretty much make those anything we like because they've been
oh sure,
manipulated so much.
yeah, sure. No, it's just to work out the heights though. It's good to see which ones are the same. So, looking over here, you can see there's a obviously the vents there, and you've got this panel below the windows. The windows all should be exactly the same height all across that facade. And so, and again here, so you've got the vents there and then the concrete beam. So I'd be pretty certain that that height there is the same as on the other corner. So it just comes up a lot, and it's something you would need to show. If it was only a small rise for an interiors project, you'd probably get away with not even showing it. But because it's pretty significant, it's at least a couple of metres, then again you do need to model that in. So coming around a bit further, and yeah, so those beams there should be similar. They're the older ones actually, I think. Yeah, they're the old original lintels. So I'll have a look at those too. But again, the bottom of those should be the same height. Okay, so we're really just using that as a measuring rod. And so then, again, from the bottom of that beam should be 2270. So now in Revit, I can draw a reference plane straight across. But notice how it's greyed out. Have you seen that happen when you draw something? And it's usually when you're in sketch mode. Here, I'm in sketch mode because I'm editing the surface. We've got the tick and the cross. And so I can make reference planes, but after I've made it, it's greyed out and I can't do anything with it. And just because I made it while I was in sketch mode, if I finish that now, then I can easily select it and modify it. So I'm just going to drag the grip there to the bottom of the beam and then put in my measurement 2720. And now I'm going to add 85 to that because more is better. So yeah, I think it was 33, so yeah, 2805, that's better. So then selecting this again, it's still got the dimension going to the right spot, so I can then change that to 28, and just to save myself doing any tricky maths, I'm going to just round that off to 2800, and then you can see the amount that it comes up, and it's quite a distance. So I'll measure that now from here, from the reference plane, which is where the ground should be, to the current ground, which is down below, and that is 1270 roughly. So the last thing I'll just show you before I go back and edit that is that this again should be 100 below the floor level, and you can see basically it is. So really what I need to know is the height of this point from the ground floor level, because ground floor is 0. So there it's coming up 1160. So again, just to make life easier for me, I'm going to round this off again and make it 1200. 40 mil when you're looking at ground levels is not a big change, 4 centimetres, and it probably does change by more than that if you look at Street View. And I've got to say, I always really enjoy this sort of work because this is where you can really improve the streetscape and do some really nice design that you know everyone's going to see. So when you start working with these things that are interacting with your topo surface. And so then if I select the topo surface and go back to edit surface, I can see it there, but it's probably going to be much easier if I go back into plan view, and I may just actually go to site, not the site with the satellite, just because I can see the building by itself there. you can decide which views you use. And so now I'm going to go to place point and then change my elevation to 1200. So that's the amount I've decided it needs to come up at this corner. Now, we've done the points right outside here, and I just thought I'd show you what would happen if I show you the whole surface now. Notice how it's put these lines in. Do you know what those lines are? Those lines that have come in just inside the edge? They're actually contour lines. So it gives you automatic contour lines, which is a really nice thing, but it's based on the points I already have, and they're all a long way from the building. So another good option is to put points for the base of the building. So I've done a point here, this is the high point, but I want to put in another point for the low point. So the low point, remember, is minus 100. So that should be the lowest point where the ground comes up to your building. And I'm going to assume it's this corner here, which is the Mary Street facade. Okay, so we've got the high point and the low point, but now it's even looking stranger because, again, it's connecting to these points that are a long way away. So I'm going to put in some more points, fairly randomly. Well, not randomly, but not all that precisely. And I'm going to switch back to the view where I've got the satellite image, just so this is easy for you to understand. Back to place point now, it's still got minus 100 as my height. And if you just think about it logically, the ground here at the corner of the building is probably going to be at a similar height to the ground over on the other side of the street. The street probably doesn't slope down dramatically away from the building. So if I click a point over here, that helps to work the surface out. And then coming down the street here, again, it probably does slope down, but we don't really need to worry about showing that. So I'm just going to keep that fairly flat and putting some more points that are at minus 100. And so notice how the contour line is coming across and just generally looking better. So don't be afraid to add points in. It's almost like join the dots, but, well, 3D join the dots. It's like you've got these imaginary points that it then drapes over your surface. So you can put as many points in as you want, and it'll just average out those heights and connect them as best it can to make this surface that changes height. So I'm going to go all the way over here and get a minus 100 point. Yep, because I haven't changed the level up here.
When you put point, you change the height, and
that's right.
make it after that.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So now I want to put a point in for this corner of the building, but I don't know the height. We know it's between 1200 and minus 100, but I just want to have a look at the outside just to get a better idea. Yeah, so here you can see it doesn't really slope all that much on the Reservoir Street side. Yeah, it's fairly flat. You can tell from the piers. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, so it probably is nice to have a bit because, yeah, like you're saying, you do have that there that's pretty obviously showing the slope, and then here it's got the piers a little bit bigger. So, well, you could even just compare the number of bricks. So you've got how many? What, a dozen or so? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, or 15 bricks. And then up here you've got less than that. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, yeah, 8. So it's, yeah. So 500, yep. So again, coming 500 up, we're at minus 100. So I'm just going to work from there. You might need to fine tune this, but that's okay for now. So what did I say? 500, yeah. So okay, so that'll be 400. And then again, I'll start with a point on the corner of the building. And then put some more points in across, because see how I've got this contour line coming from all the way over here? That means this is all the same level. So that's all, it's a little bit more than minus 100. So what do you think that line is? That's 0. So you get a contour line usually in even increments, so there'll be 1 metre contours or 5 metre contours. And so you'll always get 1 for 0. And you can work that out because you know here we've made this minus 100, so if it's just near it, it's going to be most likely 0.
The line is 0.
Yeah.
And the dots is the best of 2.
That's right, that's right. So then, if I put some more points in, that contour line is going to come across. And now it's connecting over here, and I'm just going to keep coming across. So that essentially I've got a consistent slope coming across this way, and it's not sloping in too many different directions, because then it does just become a lot harder to...
That's why you keep them same level.
Yeah, that's right. Just simplifies the surface. And so now, coming back to the point I started on, that was at minus 12, also that was at 1200. So if I use place point again and make the elevation there 1200. So just up here, just the elevation there.
Yeah, it's up 1100.
No, I'm going to make it the same height. Yeah. And then again, just coming down this way maybe, and I can try and take it all the way to the edge. Don't worry if the outside of your surface is an unusual shape. You're not going to see the outer edge of it anyway, so that doesn't matter. And so then it still looks a bit strange because this point now is lower than this point and this point. Right, so this one here is 400, this one's 1200, so maybe I'll split the difference and make this one 800. And now the contours make more sense.
It's impossible to be that much lower.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah, that's right, exactly. Well, you'd be a valley, I suppose. So, yeah, but it probably wouldn't be like that, yeah. So then over here, you can maybe assume to begin with that it's the same height as this corner. So basically, in between this corner and this corner, which are your high points. This one was 400, so I'll just make the corner over here 400 as well. And then again, see if I can put some more points in that come out in a direction from there, probably just to the left. And so then you can use your judgment. If you want to get nice contours, you can even try just dragging points, and that effectively moves the contour lines. You might decide here that maybe this point, and if you know the geography of the area, that point would be higher because that's where the, Elizabeth Street comes down. You've got that bridge under the railway line, which is higher, I'm sure, than your building. So let's say that one's 400. That's maybe too far, it's looking a bit strange there, but if I put another point in over here, that's again in between 400 and minus 100, so that's going to be 150, and that might make it look a bit better. And maybe this point can even come back. It's looking okay. So these points that you're doing around the building, or outside your building, aren't so important, but they can't be too far off, otherwise you'll get some really strange things happening. And maybe I should just show you. If you have a real outlier and a point that's way off what it needs to be, you'll know. So I'll make this 30,000. So say I meant to be typing in 3,000 and I've put an extra 0, so that's 30 metres. And you can see then it stands out obviously in the plan because we get all these extra contour lines. But sometimes people don't even notice that, and I've seen quite a few people go ahead and keep modelling and then only realise when they start looking at their building that they've got, massive bits of earthwork sticking through windows, and here we go. So you'll know it when you start rendering, but you don't want to get to that point, and so you can easily delete points like that. Okay, but now you can see in 3D, you can orbit and have a look at what you're working on. You can still change the heights of points, or even try to put new ones in if you want to. So then looking at the corner here, it's coming up and it's hiding those doors, which is right because they're down low. So that would need to be windows there. And if you're going to have the entry here, like I'm going to try, it'll need to slope down, you need to have a ramp. So,
And here what, as that's the floor point. Now
The-
compared to the beam with the charged water, it's going to be the floor. Even if it's
yeah, well, the floor is now lower than the ground, and that's how it is in reality. So see how here you've got the floor still above, but on the other side. So the floor level there is lower than the footpath.
yeah, right.
So it comes down quite a way. Yeah. So even if you're not going to do this entry that I'm doing, you still need to make a ground surface. And then you'll see in your sections, it'll show up really well, but it also is going to inform your design a lot, because if you've been trying to put shop fronts or even just doors in this area, you'll realise once you do the topo surface that that's not an option. The only way you could is maybe if you have a step up to the level inside, you could do that, but I don't know if it's worthwhile when you've got so many other ways of putting doors and windows in other places. So just to finish up, I'll just show you the section then. So this should be the high corner. So if I do a section now, looking towards that, then it's really clear. We can see the ground coming up higher than the floor level. So I won't show you how to do the next bit, but I'll just remind you maybe of the things you need to think about. So if you've got the ground like that and the floor's down here, what do we need in between? Yeah, a wall, exactly. So this wall could come up, but it might be better to put another wall on top. And that would be enough. For an interior design project, you don't need to show all the technical details. You should know about them. Do you know what the issue is when you've got a wall like this? When it's up against dirt or earth? What's the big problem? If you've ever lived in a building like this, you'd know. If you've got a building that's partially underground, well, mould, it leaks, the water comes in, right? The earth is full of water and moisture, and if you don't waterproof it, the water's going to go straight through. So if it's an existing building like this, you can assume they've already dealt with that, and it's called tanking. But if you're going to put in new things that are below ground, you just need to make sure you allow for that, for the tanking is what it's called, the way they're waterproof. It's good to think about those things. I know a lot of people are trying to do underground projects or building these days, and you see it all the time on grand designs and things from the UK where maybe the property's a bit more expensive and it justifies it. But have you thought about the other issues for planning if you've got things below the main floor level? Apart from waterproofing, which is the main, and getting... There's structural issues, but then there's a really obvious one. Once you think about it, it's kind of a deal breaker. What about drainage? Toilets and other things that need to drain. If your floor level is lower than the sewer line, that's going to go up. You can make it do that, but it's not a pleasant process if you research it. Yeah, all that stuff. Macerators, and it's just... So think about that if you ever need to do subterranean levels, and this is probably a good chance to model it in. I said before, I'm not going to do the car park, but I have at least set it out. That's an easy thing you could do, but I probably won't go much further with it than that, because it's an interiors project after all, and you want to focus on what you're designing. So I'll give you some time to try those things. Try to get a good idea of the vehicle accesses before you go too far with the topo surface, because the two are going to work together. But again, get your topo surface with the slope there, and then hopefully you can finish off the rest of the facade, and then obviously let me know if you've got any problems. But the structure is something that you're hopefully looking at the moment as well, and that's the last thing we went through last week. So I know I showed you then you could have joists exposed, like I've shown them here, but that's not necessary. So if you don't have, if you don't want that in your design, if you are happier to have a lined ceiling, then don't model them. put in a ceiling and make it sit under your floor instead of the joists. The beams probably will be exposed in most people's designs, so I think you'll all have to put those in, and the hardwood columns as well. But again, think twice before you put in all the joists, because if you do the whole building, there are going to be hundreds of them, and you might then decide later that you really didn't need them to be exposed, or not all of them. So I think a really clever solution for some of these areas would be to have only some of the joists exposed. Maybe in hotel rooms you could have spaces that are delineated by the ceiling treatment. So you could have some joists exposed, but then have other areas where you've put a lined ceiling in. And again, those things you can think about as you put in the rest of the structure. So again, I'll give you some time to do those things. And I'll come around and let me know any other problems you've got.